Revisamos esto con hoy día en la mañana, hoy día es martes. Revisamos esta oración, está dentro de las cosas que les dejé en UCampus, ¿sí? Vamos, yo la marqué, nuevamente digo, de nuevo, está con colores, solo para diferenciar una cosa de otra, no tiene ningún sentido mayor a ese. Entonces la oración dice, in an interview with Sci-Fi Wire, Flagger, who plays Nomad Jacob Kowalski in the film series, praised the character's development in the forthcoming chapter, which he says is building towards a massive war in the wizarding world. Estas son oraciones que saqué de páginas web, así que esto es inglés de verdad. No está pensado para estudiantes. Ya, primero, entonces, lo primero que veo es esta, oye, vamos trabajándolo. Entonces, esta prepositional phrase adverbial in an interview with Sci-Fi Wire because you can move it on the one hand. On the other hand, you can also erase it. In preposition head, then an interview with Sci-Fi Wire is a noun phrase complement, determine a noun head, prepositional phrase post, pre, and then the canonical version of it. Then I have these noun phrase subjects. Fogler, who plays Madge, I don't know how to say that. Jacob Kowalski in the film series is a noun phrase subject because I can replace it by a pronoun. So I can say, I imagine is a male character, I think. So I can say he. Then Fogler would be the noun head, and then we will have a WH relative clause post modifier, making why WH relative clause? Because it begins with a WH word, and on the other hand, no, that's the idea. It's a relative clause because it is giving information about the noun head. So it's acting as an adjective something, right? So then grammarians have called this type of constructions relative clauses. There are some other ways in which you can call them, identifying relative clauses or restrictive relative clauses. There are some even there are in some places where they call them adjectival clauses. Okay, so Fogler, noun head, and then the WH relative clause post. Then, as it is a clause, it has phrases. Oh, you can see them over there. And this is the noun phrase subject pronoun head. Be careful with who, because I labeled it as a pronoun and not as a determiner or a WH word anymore. Why? Because it is replacing the noun head Fogler. So it's making a reference to that antecedent. So we might say this is a pronoun. In fact, it would be called relative pronoun. And then we have the verb phrase verb with the main verb place, and then the Nomad Jacob Kowalski, which is a noun, I think is a name. So as a name, it is a noun phrase, and as it is a name, I think it is just one lexeme, one idea. So therefore, I just wrote down noun head. And then at the very end of it, we will have this prepositional phrase in the film series, which I wrote it down as a prepositional phrase adverbial with a preposition head in, and then the canonical version of that. So that will be my subject. So far, our sentence will have a prepositional phrase adverbial and then the noun phrase subject. And then we will have praised, which is the main verb, verb phrase, verb, main verb, and nothing else. And then we have this huge sentence, it's very, very long. The character development in the forthcoming chapter, which he says is building towards a massive war in the wizarding world. This is the noun phrase object. Why an object? Because it is the what, which can be answered by using this main verb, right? What does he or what did he praise? He praised the character development. He praised that. So therefore, it is a noun. Then we will begin with a noun phrase object. The entire thing would be a noun phrase because we can replace it by a pronoun. That, for instance, praised it also. And then the noun phrase object will begin with the determiner premodifier, the noun premodifier, character, right? And then the noun head. Be careful because in noun phrases you can have nouns as premodifiers. Again, now this is interesting. The character development in the forthcoming chapter is a prepositional phrase post modifier with all the canonical version of it. Be careful with forthcoming. We talked about this during this morning because Apparently it looks like an ing verb, but in the syntactic context, I would say, in this syntactic construction, which is a noun phrase, there is no possibility for an ing verb to appear, right? Why? Because it is in the middle of the determiner and the noun head. So the only version in which this might happen is as an ing clause, but then we shouldn't have this determiner, right? And we look it up in the dictionary, and it's an adjective, as you can see over there. Now, so with that, we will say it's the noun phrase object. But then we have this another relative clause, which he says is building towards a massive war, so on and so forth. This which is the WH word. In this case, we say it's a determiner, and this determiner is making reference to another element, and we think that it is making reference to the character development, right? Is this character development the one which he says is building towards that, right? So here we will have two post modifiers. The first of them would be the prepositional phrase, but the second one is the WH relative clause. As a clause, it will have a noun phrase subject, which he, and then here again have another issue. If you remember at the very top of it, we will have who, place, but in this case we labeled who as a pronoun. Why? Because it is replacing the entire noun phrase subject. But in this second example, we will have a pronoun next to which, therefore that which would be a determinate premodifier, and then he will be the pronoun head. Okay, so be careful with that. If you have that WH word on its own, then that would mean, or that means this is a pronoun, a relative pronoun. But if we have the WH word full, before the pronoun, then that WH word will be a determinate premodifier. Then next to that noun phrase subject, we will have this verb phrase verb says, and then we will have something else. And if you take a look at this, there's a missing that over there, which says that is building, right? And that which is omitted, elided, in other words, will create a that clause object, right? Then we will have the verb phrase verb is building with the auxiliary verb and main verb, and then towards a massive war in the Wizarding world. We can move them. Both of them are prepositional phrases, so we can move one to the place of the other. So I can say is building in the Wizarding world towards a massive war, right? I can say that. It doesn't make much sense, but I can say it. So therefore, we will have two prepositional phrases adverbial at the very same level over there, and then just the canonical version of it. So as a summary, be careful with these WH pronouns, these relative pronouns or relative determinants once they appear. And in this example, we have in the green one, we have a noun phrase with two different post modifiers. And that's it.